Good morning, Cousin Russ. We need to tackle hybrid society meetings and how social media can help them get the word out.
Absolutely.
Yes. Previously, we've talked about how leadership makes a decision about the use of a Zoom meeting or webinar, whether or not they are prepared to make the recording and come into compliance with something that may show up in a speaker contract. We've talked about the equipment, which is minimal. Room layout. Cousin Russ, you really hit it out of the ballpark on that one. Since you nailed it, we understand we need an in-person facilitator and the Zoom facilitator outside the room so the speaker can do their thing. But social media is the way to get the word out. These are conversations that our society leadership needs to have.
I also think it has changed. A society may have had a social media person before, but I think that it has changed in that social media now, not time to think about stuff, but to get the word out quickly.
Get the word out quickly and fresh content twice a week, maybe. All right, sounds like a plan. That's our goal. So, Russ, multiple devices. What's our recommendation?
Well, I think that getting the word out is sending our notices out on the variety of meetings a society might hold, like a special interest group or board meeting, a conference institute, to get it out more than what we used to do in newsletters, announcement for the previous meetings, and maybe even a one-time spot in a local newspaper.
Totally get that. But the info that the potential attendees need to know are the same, aren't they?
Absolutely. Who's going to speak? What is the topic? What is the event? Where is the event going to be? Is it going to be in the library or is it going to be in a hybrid situation using a platform like Zoom? And how do you address getting registered for the event, whatever the event is? But it's an invitation to that event.
Yeah, it isn't just in the hybrid environment. Oh, the library address you need to give out. Specific information for Zoom registration needs to be distributed. Good point, Cousin Russ. So years ago, my daughter, Carrie, and I did a webinar called Is Social Media a Tool for Genealogy? And of course, we agree that it is, hence our producing that. But 21st century organizations recognize that a strong social media presence is essential for getting the word out. It's about giving your potential viewer the opportunity to like, comment, share, and subscribe or register for your upcoming event.
And I would say that to all of those social media platforms, wherever you have an opportunity, see the like or make a comment or share or subscribe, and all those platforms have a way to do this.
Yep, that's for sure. Zoom has a problem in that department, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, meetings, a meeting communications is a confirmation email. You sign up for a Zoom meeting and you get a confirmation email, as opposed to the webinar, which is more for presentations, in my opinion. But the nice thing is that you get 3 reminder emails a week in advance, a day in advance, and an hour in advance. I use my Google Calendar to add one more, and that is 2 hours in advance. I do that because that gives me time to get reboot my computer, stuff we've talked about before in this series, reboot my computer, make sure I have all the updates, and then the 1 hour reminds me, okay, get online, get ready.
Yeah, quit taking pictures of your beautiful garden and the birds therein. I hear you. Okay, so it isn't Zoom's responsibility, though, to do the sizzle. And that's what social media is all about. Now, Cousin Russ, I don't know if you followed Breck shampoo commercials back in 1984. But Heather Locklear did a Breck shampoo commercial. It was very controversial because she was in the shower and her hair was all wet and everything. Now that's nothing. But she said she would tell two people and they would tell two people and so on and so on. And the best screen capture I could get was fuzzy. I don't know how we watched television in that fuzzy setting, but
Yeah,
we did.
I think the makers of Breck shampoo understood the value of word of mouth.
Yeah, that type of advertising is the very best because people are committed already. All right. And as I was making this PowerPoint, it occurred to me that the Breck shampoo thing kind of looks like the layout of a Zoom meeting with all the little chiclets.
Yeah, that's true. That's then and there, then and now.
Yep. So our society wants to build interest and grow membership. And social media is all about making it very easy for your members to build interest by using those options, like the like, comment, and share. I switched and did your part. You want to do mine, Cousin Russ? There we go. I think you're muted, hon.
It's a great image, and if I see something that I like an upcoming recording or meeting, I know that I can share that with somebody else. So I told myself, I saw it myself, and I can share it. So social media is letting me know, sharing what I have just discovered. Maybe you haven't.
Yeah.
That's usually the other way around, where you'll find something, but we can share it to get other people who might be interested in what we're doing.
Well, I noticed that you shared something with Dr. Shelley about descendants of slaves that helped build a university in the state of Virginia. I didn't see her first post, but I saw that you shared something with her, and that's how social media works. And the more that an event post gets a like or a comment or a share, the more rapidly your society's posts will appear higher up on a search engine results page. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I'm glad you brought it up. That like button lets the content creator know that somebody liked it. So they're getting points for the like button.
I hear you. So now we're on to branding, it looks like.
Oh, branding. Cannot overemphasize the importance of branding. And you do that with Mondays with Myrt when you show websites so that people know visually know that this is a good website or this is a part of a series, like the first one you had, the Census Genie, is a graphic that is done in each of our meetings, and it's branding, so I know that it's a safe place to go.
Yep, I think that's a thing to provide for your members and potential members, brand recognition. Now, in this last example, the busting through brick walls, I asked the Corona Genealogical Society for their logo so that I could put it on the first slide of my PowerPoint. That's co-branding. And this is something that your society could do. We do that at GRIP for the evening events. It's get that GRIP logo in the upper corner or get the sponsors information in the upper corner to promote both. And promoting both, oh, there's Zoom up there. we're branding, we're co-branding with Zoom. Thanks for that point, Cousin Russ. All right. That's an easy thing to do. Now, here's how I did it. I've actually done a whole series on this over on my YouTube channel, but basically your presenter takes their opening slide, and once they've inserted that graphic, they click File, Save As, and scroll down to select Ping as the format. And then this graphic can be used to advertise the event over in Zoom. So when a person signs up, they'll see that at the top of the page. But there's a trick, because Zoom will tell you that Ping file is too big. Just reduce it by 50% in any photo editing software, no problem. I happen to use Snagit. Here's what it looks like, Cousin Russ, when I set up the Census Genie.
Yeah, when you did the branding for the series, you made it, and every time I go to my calendar or the Zoom invitation or the registration page, I know what I'm signing up for. So I'm recognizing the brand, and in our Zoom meetings for that series, you and I both share that branding as what's behind us. In the meeting, so they know what our people who are watching are seeing the branding for the series.
Yep, it becomes a striking graphic, a recognizable graphic. So what I do first in Zoom, and we're going to go into more detail in our next meeting about how to set up a Zoom account. Once you've set it up, you click on it on the list, that meeting. It could be recurring or a one-off, and then scroll down toward the bottom where you will see these categories, and they don't look like tabs, but trust me, these are tabs, Cousin Russ. You know that.
Yes, they are.
And at registration, you can see how many people are registered thus far, which would be 0 at this point because you haven't advertised it. Branding is the third tab here. So you have to click there, and it gives you the option to upload a graphic. And it will remind you, as I say, if you need to make it smaller. You don't have to worry specifically about the suggested dimensions. I just use my PowerPoint 16:9 ratio and went from there. That's how you do it. Pretty easy. All right. So social media is kind of important, but and that's the whole point of this discussion, but fresh content is, I think this is the most important slide of this whole presentation. Fresh content equals a reason to post. If you post the same exact thing every time, it hurts your standing with Google and other news aggregators and web browsers. Russ, when we were going through this, you asked me, why did I put these graphics here and these over on the right side? And the reason is that blog posts and MailChimp, sorry about that, they're mostly for people who've already subscribed or who are already your members. Yes, to some degree, blog posts get the word out if somebody happens to search for the title of your upcoming event. But who on earth would know Census Genie? My inside people know Census Genie, right?
Yep.
But by using these social media outlets, Facebook, YouTube, I mean, I could do a short subject. Hey, we're going to be doing this on the 24th of July. So stop on by and so will be our guest speaker. It doesn't need to be more than 2-minute long YouTube video. And you get a free YouTube channel if you have a Gmail account. for your society.
I think the right-hand column to me is a reminder to societies of the channels that are available, and there may be more, but
Mhm.
those are very heavily populated. They're very active. They have the features we've been talking about, like and thumbs up and sharing. Those platforms have those features. If you don't have a Twitter channel, why not?
Yeah. In fact, create a Gmail account for your social media account. Yes. Okay. All right. This is another kind of cool slide. It took me a long time to figure out how to create this, Cousin Russ, because the way we do publicity in the 21st century is a lot different than what we did back in 1984. None of us could afford a 30-second television spot. So I'm seeing the publicity chair was the one that is confirms that the meeting room is going to be set up the way that's needed, that there is signage in the building with arrows pointing to where that event is going to be held in person. They might distribute posters at the library, the local family history centers, or historical societies. And then that publicity chair coordinates with the newsletter staff. At first I put editor, and we all know if it's a one-person staff, it's a hard job. And then after the newsletter is laid out by the newsletter staff, the printing and mailing staff kick in. Um, uh, some people weren't available during the day to drop it off at Office Max or Office Depot or whatever your printer was at the time. And then it always took about 5 or 6 people to work together to put the labels on the newsletters and get them sorted. Took us a while before we could actually figure out how to sort by zip code, which is required for bulk mailing. 21st century is a lot different, Cousin Russ. What do
I,
you see if in this post?
what I see between the left panel and the right panel is time, speed, and requirement for staff. In other
Okay.
words, in 1984, it took time to get that newsletter put together and mailed. What you
Mhm,
just described, you had
mhm,
more than one person to do it, hopefully. You had a
mhm.
staff of people, but we can't do that in the 21st century. We got the tools to get the word out quicker.
Yeah, we have the tools. So let's just imagine that your society's leadership has appointed a publicity chair, might be vice president and publicity. That publicity chair makes sure that that branding appears on the Zoom registration page. And that publicity chair also makes sure that the society can use the image, a specific image of the speaker when they do the distribution of a short bio about the speaker. You still might be creating signage for the in-person part of a hybrid society meeting. But that publicity chair also needs to ensure that information is distributed about how to sign up for the event virtually. Now, you don't want to distribute the Zoom URL on Twitter. You want to advertise on Twitter and Facebook, etc., with the link to the page on your website or your blog that contains the Zoom. That's a good way to ensure that not so nice people end up registering so that they can harass your audience. We've only had that happen 3 times in how many years have we worked
Yeah.
together? It seems like we were toddlers when we started.
I think the one thing about the publicity chair needs to take that branding for that event to
Mhm.
each of the specialists that are on the right-hand side. So you want each platform, whether it's a person doing multiple jobs or 5 different people, which is fine, but they have the same branding to put on their platform.
Yes, they need to have just what Roots Tech distributes to those of us who've been their ambassadors, a packet, a file folder with multiple graphics that represented Roots Tech. You need to do that for your society. Now, the reason that I posted Facebook, Twitter, MailChimp, Instagram, and YouTube specialists is so that your society leadership will recognize we need a team as opposed to one person. I belong to a very active organization. It's active on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And they had one person doing the job of Twitter and Instagram who had surgery. And then in the year and a half afterwards, has had complications. You can't leave this on the shoulder of one person. There needs to be experienced people, plural, people who are
Well,
experienced using Instagram, etc.
I would add the comment, train your replacement is a great
Yeah,
way to
yeah.
build up that what if something happens, you have someone who is learning the ropes, and train your replacement is the thought process that I would use.
Well, and this might be where younger people in your society may wish to volunteer. They can do this in a matter of seconds, provided the newsletter staff posts regularly about an upcoming event. And so, for that reason, we're going to take the example of a newsletter of the Genealogical Speakers Guild. It was called Speak. This is part of a presentation, a minuscule part of a presentation I gave in 2011 about how to go from the printed version of a newsletter to a digital version. And this in the background is the printed version, expensive, difficult to distribute, requiring even more money to distribute. And then this was the sample blog that I created where information could be stored under tabs, like About would have all the information about your regularly, who the staff is, who the newsletter editor is, who the members of the board and the officers are. It doesn't need to go out in every single blog post. Another part of the newsletter I've highlighted here, it's from the same newsletter. They had a sidebar with upcoming conferences, which was pretty nice because it apprised their members of conferences that they might apply to as a speaker and look forward to every year to participating as a speaker. Now, let's imagine that this is your society's upcoming events, and it could be your monthly meeting, and then your German SIG meeting, and your Family Tree Maker SIG meeting, and the workshop using Roots Magic, and a special Zoom event, Zoom only event about writing your personal history. Well, each one of these could have 5 or 6 or 8 different mini posts going out in the blog with one new facet of information about that event. Remember, I said that new information or fresh information is a reason to post. And that does not interfere, but in fact improves your search engine optimization. All right, let's look at another part of this newsletter. When you looked at the inside this issue, almost everything was routine. The actual articles that were submitted by people are just these 3. What about a contract? Something new about a member hardware exchange and how to do it, And the third thing was by Chuck. We just loved him. Why pay speakers? Yeah, imagine that. But the rest of these things were principally about society business. The thing of a tribute to Marcia was a recurring theme where they were trying to decide about more than just saying we miss her since her passing. I mean, that there's so much knowledge in that woman's brain. We miss her. But lapel pins, nominations, the president's message, that's society business. The fresh stuff was in the green category, articles. These were business ideas about upcoming conferences, helping your colleagues. Do you have a brochure? Things along that line. And there was a call to action, things to do at NGS Charleston. I remember that. And participating in a project to preserve Rhode Island records and also a free webinar. Now, I go into great detail about this to point out that most of these things can go to the About page or can be posted once and linked at the About page. The first post is fine because it's new information about getting your Genealogical Speakers Guild lapel pins. But then put a link to it under About so that that information won't be lost. It'll still be available, but it's not fresh to be putting out 3 times a week. Doesn't make sense. Now, when we look at this side, I've already crossed out the lapel pins, the nominations for officers, and the virtual presentation committee, meaning who's on it. That could go on the About page. Yeah, let me point out a couple of other things. The member hardware exchange might need an additional post or two when they note something new, like we've mostly been working on laptops, and we have extra laptops, and we need help refurbishing them so we can donate them to the local after-school activity at the local elementary school. That's new, fresh information where that committee or activity started with one facet and then moved to a new facet. Okay, free webinar. Yeah, that's not a very catchy title. We need to know what it's about. Okay, there's that good, do you need a contract? The tribute to Marcia could be several things. When you think about it, when she passed away, having her obituary posted could be one post. And if that organization, your society, decided to raise money for books to be donated to the local library under Marcia's name, that's another facet, new information to push out in social media. So that does warrant an additional post. And I would put a link to it back on the obituary page under what our society is doing to honor Marcia, etc. Okay. I love that. Why pay speakers? So now I hope, folks, that as you're looking at this, fresh content equals a reason to post, that it can go out in your MailChimp, your email to members only. It can go in your blog, and I'm going to show you some details on the next slide. In the weeks and months before a special event, it's good to send out a regularly scheduled post with fresh content about that particular event, just a slightly different facet, through your society's social media accounts. Russ?
We want to make a caution to you that if it's the same time, same text, every time. It looks the same every time. That's going to hurt your search engine optimization standing. So you want to have fresh content and a fresh reason to post. And not that they should look the same. You could have a brand like your society brand, but something else that catches somebody's attention.
Yeah, initially, the information about the event itself would be fresh content. Then you could add a post. Let's say it's an all-day seminar, and you've got 4 speakers because there's 4 classes. Well, there's 4 new posts with a bio about each individual speaker with their photo as the graphic and the branding at the bottom with details to register. You could do 2-minute videos describing that class or do a quick interview with that person, that each one of those guest presenters. Doesn't take very long. What are you planning to talk about? Another reason to post, and embed that YouTube video in your post in your blog and distribute it through all these social media accounts. You might send out a post. We've seen this with institutes. They just added 20 more seats, a new section of an institute course. Due to overwhelming demand. That's a happy circumstance and new information to share. It might be an article about the speaker's latest book. It could be that the speaker is speaking on another topic elsewhere, and we're thinking with open arms and cooperation and from a standpoint of abundance, that it's good for your society to advertise the other societies hearing from the same world famous genealogy presenter. Let me show you where to put the branding graphic in those situations. Okay, Russ. First, we need a catchy title. A striking graphic. Now, does this have anything to do with genealogy per se, Cousin Russ?
No. Not that I can tell.
No, it could be a kid, shouting for joy. It needs to be an upbeat looking thing. Now, I've crossed out this part, which is what will not be used in social media. This post, text of the post, and all of that goes in the original, in your blog post of that, whatever that facet or that new fresh content is. But your social media people are going to use the catchy title and that cool graphic this time. And they're going to, whoops, I scrolled down too far. They're going to scroll down to the bottom of the page, still skipping all those paragraphs describing your speaker, etc. This time they will not use, because they need that catchy graphic, they will not use the branding graphic, but they will do the date, time, and place, and the web address of the blog post that has those details. Wow, I sure have a very sensitive mouse today.
We should remember that social media resources look at the first graphic at the top, and it needs to be striking. If you are on a service like Feedly, you're not going to see the second graphic. You're going to see the one at the top.
Yeah, and we want fresh graphics. Not that we don't like the branding graphic. It sounds like we're contradicting ourselves, but we're not. Trust us. Okay. So I decided to go look at Pew Research Center. I know that they do analysis of what social media websites people are using. And again, I want to emphasize that your society needs to use an experienced Facebooker or an experienced Instagrammer to be your society's representative in that social media platform. All right, so this is the report. The link is on the side. We'll put it in the show notes. This is the most recent report, April 7th, 2021, and they explain how they did their research and the results of their research. And I'm going to just show you a few things, Cousin Russ. No, you don't love Facebook.
Social leadership should take a note from the same Pew Research post that 1 in 7 Facebook users visit the site daily, sometimes more frequently, but that net daily figure is 78%.
So 7 in 10 Facebook users visit it at least daily, followed by Snapchat, which we haven't even discussed.
Correct.
Wow, that's a quite a different platform. A lot of fun, and there's place for it. I could see it in genealogy. I had to think about this a lot, Cousin Russ. Instagram 59%, YouTube 54%, and Twitter 46%. So what does this tell us? Your society needs to have a Facebook presence. Now, in my experience, I think you will do very well with a group. I recently started a page for my merch journaling work, and I hate it because it's pushing me to sell products, and I'm not selling products. I'm making announcements about my events, and I can do that very well in a group. You just need to control who can post in that group. And it might only be the members of the admin and moderators. But and that's the post, the original post, but all the comments and likes and things like that can be done. And it can be in a public group. All right, here's another thing that I learned from the folks at the Pew Research Center.
I think the piece of that graphic that really caught my attention was the age groups. So if your society is aging out and looking for younger members, make your announcements, however wacky, using social media platforms that the younger folks are using.
This would be a great way to capture them. Snapchat, well, let's leave it to your members of your society who have it. All I know is that younger folks are using it, and TikTok. And Pinterest isn't even on the rest of the chart over. This is just the top part of this chart. All right. So we think you'll now agree that social media plays a most important role in getting the word out about your upcoming hybrid meetings to both members and potential members. It's all about giving your viewer the opportunity to what? Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Yep. Totally. So, Cousin Russ, what are we planning to do next?
Next, we have to show you how to set up the Zoom account, and we will do that in a subsequent video.
Yes. And there's nothing left to say but happy family tree climbing, everybody. That's a wrap.